How would you like to have a flock of bird friends eating right out of your hand? In this video, I'll show you how to do just that using 4 simple steps from a method that I've developed and have been using over the last 7 years to make friends with my own local flocks. Anyone with some backyard or local wild birds can do this. All you really need are patience, consistency, and a good bit of their favorite food. The 4 steps I'll be teaching include 1. Start feeding and establish a feeding site. 2. Associate yourself with the bird's food and get them comfortable with your presence. 3. Start offering food by hand. This is the exciting part. And 4. Continue to reinforce your progress. If you stay tuned for the back half of this video, I'll offer some more in-depth tips and some personal stories from my experience and learning along the way. If you're not already feeding local wild birds, this is your first step. Get a simple bird feeder, set it up, and have it full of food so that it starts attracting your local flocks. Place this feeder in a location where you can access it easily and often and is comfortable for you to spend a lot of time in. Be sure to do a little research and find out what type of bird seed will attract the species that you're most interested in or that are in your area. Once you have birds reliably visiting your feeder, it's time to start associating yourself with their food and getting them comfortable with you being around. This will look like refilling the feeder every day at the same time of day and allowing it to run out in between refills. You'll soon find that the birds may be waiting for you around the time or just before you step outside to go refill it with seeds. Once you refill the feeder, stay in the general area if you can, but at a distance the birds are still comfortable. You'll have to play with this and see what they'll accept in terms of how close you can get to their feeding station. Ideally, during this time, do something like have your coffee there, spend some time reading a book. Don't interact yet, but just be close by, being your normal self, not making too many sudden movements or noises. You want them to start to associate your presence with a safe place to get a snack. Once your flock is very comfortable with you at this initial distance away, you can start to close the distance between you and the feeder. Do this very gradually, day by day, keeping an eye on the bird's behavior so you know that you're not overpressuring them and causing them to be too fearful of you. Your ultimate goal with this process is to get them extremely comfortable feeding freely while you stand immediately next to or touching the feeder. You may find during this stage that some birds start to land on you briefly, especially if there's a lot of competition and they need a close place to hang out to wait for their turn. Remaining fairly still during this phase helps as well, but don't be a statue. You need to be able to move comfortably and smoothly so that you can feed the birds by hand, and they need to be used to that as well. Your third, and in my opinion most exciting stage, is to now start offering your birds food by hand. During this stage, you're going to alter your feeding habits just slightly to encourage them to look at your hand as a food source in addition to the feeder. Now, when you go out to refill your feeder at your chosen time of day, you will not fill it to the normal amount. You'll make sure that there's just enough for almost all of the birds to get at least a couple of seeds, but be sure that the food will run out in the time that you have available to hang out with them. What you'll start to do as well is put some seeds in your hand and place your hand on or immediately next to their main feeding platform so that they can see that there's also food there as their main supply is running out. Be sure to hold your hand in such a way that the birds can perch on something other than you and still reach over and grab a seed out of your hand. You might find that they gently peck at your fingers or otherwise investigate, do little flybys before they're comfortable enough to quickly steal a seed. This is such an exciting and important phase. Your main goal is to maintain and build their trust as you ask them to have the courage to step up onto your hand. Be careful not to ask too much of your birds at this stage. 1 or 2 of them sneaking a seed before the rest fly away is all you need in a day's progress. Once you have a couple of birds interacting this way, be sure to top off the feeder just a little bit, a limited amount, before you leave so everyone gets rewarded for still showing up that day. Pretty soon, you'll have your first brave bird hop all the way onto your hand and maybe stay there for a few moments. This is super exciting, and now you are off to the races. Other birds will observe this behavior, and now you can start doing things like moving your hand slightly farther away from the feeder, not offering food in the feeder at all and only from your hand to see what happens, and just genuinely building that relationship with your flock. Your final phase is the one that will last the longest and will be unique to you and your experience with your flock. Here, you'll continue to reinforce the progress that you've made with them. You can start being more of yourself, moving more naturally, slowly, while observing their behavior and what they're comfortable with. Start talking to them at this time as well. When I go outside each morning, I tend to call to my birds in the same way, and they will hear me and come flying within a minute or two. It's a really special feeling. Another really fun thing is when your birds get comfortable enough, you'll be able to bring visitors over and they will eat just as readily out of their hands as yours. It's a really fun thing when you can bring friends, family, or even kids over and give them a little bit of this experience. Now on to some tips and tricks that I've learned over the years through trial and error. Hopefully you benefit from them and this can speed along your progress with the birds. You can absolutely start this process with your local birds any time of year, but I find that it works best and quickest if you start when they're already hungry. For me, that means the middle of winter up here on the mountain when they are relying on their stashed food sources and the pine nuts that they also love are starting to run out. There are also more useful times of day than others to schedule your feeding. First thing in the morning when the birds are waking up hungry after keeping themselves warm all night, and then last thing before end of day when the sun is about to set and they need a little extra energy again to keep warm over the dark hours. If these times of day aren't available for you, you can condition them at whatever time that you have, but it does help to start at times when you see the birds are already visiting your feeder at that consistent time of day. What if you don't have a bird feeder or a place that you can keep one up reliably? This might not be a deal breaker for you. It certainly wasn't for us. I do not keep any feeders permanently up. I really only use a hummingbird feeder. We have bears in our area and all sorts of other critters that I just do not want to attract. What I ended up doing was making sure that I left a good pile of seeds that was very visible for birds flying around, just in a spot in our driveway that was covered with snow that wouldn't be disturbed. This was our feeding station, and I didn't put out enough seed that it would be left unconsumed overnight. It worked just as well because it was a consistent supply of food that they could see in a place that they felt safe enough to go land and pick it up. Once you've got your birds conditioned to eating out of your hand, I recommend keeping a bag of their food with you at all times when you're outdoors in the area close by where you feed. They will start to see you outside, pop over and ask you for seeds. They might fly past your head, they might land on your hat. It's always a really nice reward for them to pull out a little handful and offer them a treat as you go about your day. Out here, the birds are so used to me that they will actually go on walks with me. I'll take my snowshoes out in the winter and always have a little bag of seeds, and they follow me along the entire way. My little chickadees have followed me as far as a half a mile from the house on some of my walks. It's just so sweet to have them tag along when I'm out checking trail cameras or just out enjoying the day. So there you have it, everything you need plus a little more to get you started working with your own wild birds this way. I find these interactions to be so very special and just add a whole extra layer of connection to the place that I live. And it's also just such an invitational process. The wild birds are not going to participate if they don't really want to. So have fun with it, enjoy the process, and make some new friends while you're at it. If you enjoyed this one, found it helpful, or if you have any questions, please let me know in a comment. I really would love to hear from you and start a conversation about how it's going in your backyard. Thanks so much for watching on Cue the Moose.